Hey guys, welcome to Faith Factor, where faith meets real life. I'm Maddie,
And I'm Tala.
and today we're going to be sharing our testimonies.
So, what is a testimony? A testimony is a personal story about how Jesus has impacted your life. It's also our power against the enemy and a chance to not only get authentic, but connect with others, share the gospel, and most importantly, share your faith.
So for us, we found it really important to be able to share your testimony with people around you, especially when you're really authentic about it, because when you do share your testimony, you'll find other people who are actually really similar and you've had like some of the same experiences. And for us, we found that our pasts kind of relate a little bit, and we found a lot of different areas in which we can relate to each other, and that has helped us grow closer in friendship and closer to God.
And that's why we have this podcast.
Yes, and so today we're going to be sharing our testimonies with you.
Good.
Yeah.
You can start.
Okay, so before I knew Jesus, I lived a life of unsatisfiable goals, and I had a constant self-inflicted pressure on myself to achieve extraordinary things. Overall, this led me down a path of severe mental health issues and thoughts of taking my own life.
Yeah.
So going through my recovery of these issues, I did multiple things, but none being that I turned to God to seek my worth. I constantly had that thought in the back of my mind, but I never took that chance, for I didn't really understand how to know God.
Keep going.
Eventually, I grew up and I made it past the age I thought I would never see. Externally, it seemed to others that I overcame my issues and recovered, but the lingering feeling of just a lot of pressure on myself and thoughts of feeling like I didn't want to be in this world just came from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that the issues I had could not be fully resolved from medicine.
Yeah.
And so as I graduated high school, I moved on to a new life from my childhood. I had really high hopes for the future. I moved to college with the worry that I actually wouldn't make any friends, but the only person that I trusted was myself, and so I was kind of cutting myself away from community.
Isolating.
Yeah, isolating myself because I didn't want others to bring me down. That's what my worry was. And so I began to actually fall back into my ways of toxic motivation and my strive for perfection. My first few weeks at college went well, but I really had like a constant weight on my shoulders. And I had like the idea that I really wasn't doing enough and that I was going to be falling far behind of where I wanted to be. Life was a constant competition with those around me, classmates, friends, and even future job competitors. Life was really draining, and I was fearful for my future. So the second day after moving to college, I met some girls on campus, and they actually invited me to an event. It was a faith-based event, or run by a church, and I was actually really nervous for that because I had some idea of what faith was and who God was in my past, but those that I surrounded myself with actually led me to fall far away from that because I didn't want to be surrounded by it.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of nervous because it was the event was held by a church, and I thought I didn't know enough to be surrounded by these people. And honestly, I was a little bit embarrassed that I hadn't gotten into my faith yet, because I knew people who started when they were at a young age, and I was like, wow, I'm like already in college and I don't know anything about God, and I was embarrassed about that. So I felt like I couldn't open up about it. But I decided to go to the event, and I met so many amazing people. And honestly, that was like the best decision I've ever made. And I came home, but I didn't fully stay in contact because I was a little bit nervous to go to church, and I really liked the people, but I was just too nervous to like really get into the community. And so I went weeks without seeing anyone from the trip, as there was like a lot going on, starting college, classes, and I really wanted to like focus on my schoolwork. But I actually got a call from like the same girl. She invited me to like a little workout class, and I ended up going. And that same weekend, I actually went to my very first Hope Church service.
Come on now.
At Hope Church. And so I've been going ever since, and I've met so many amazing people that they've inspired me, and they inspired me even then to like take my next step in faith. And so one night, 2 of the campus missionaries, they walked me through like the whole story of what faith is, and called the gospel story. And this helped me take my next step. They shared their experiences, and I truly for once, I felt safe to share mine. And that day, on Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, I surrendered my life to Jesus.
Come on now.
And so ever since that moment, there's been like a bond between me and those people, and I've felt so safe to like share absolutely anything with them, like faith wise or even just life. And like we've grown such a deep connection. And so I'm just like overall really grateful for this community that God has brought into my life.
Yeah.
And I strive to look at my life and other people around me differently rather than like comparing myself. And everything is a part of God's plan. So now I find myself being more grateful for anything and absolutely everything. My future goals that honestly once intimidated me, they have now become a constant part of my life, in which I thank God for. For now I understand that God is the one placing desires in your heart. And so I know that if God placed that desire in my heart, it might be meant for me. And I don't have to worry that I'm falling out of God's plan or that I'm just not good enough for it. Because if God wants you to do it, it will happen. And that's overall what I'm living for now. And so I truly believe that God has changed my life through Hope Church, and I want others to feel the same fulfillment from knowing Jesus and what he's done. So now I no longer feel the need to be perfect in every situation, as Jesus is the only perfect one.
Come on now, that was so good.
Thank you.
I would also just like to say the enemy interferes when something good is about to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why those people walked by.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't know, there's actually a huge group of people that right when I started talking that walked by, but yeah. At Monster, please sue us.
Alright, so I'm Tala again. But before I started putting the full weight of my trust in Jesus, I was actually a very different person than I am today. Every day I used to feel the need to maintain this perfect image, so I just had everything figured out and I could do it all on my own. But what I didn't want anyone to know was that like I was facing a constant overwhelming pressure to like be the perfect role model, and that the fear of failing and letting people down like really started to take a toll on my mental health. And when I failed to meet the unrealistic and unattainable expectations I put on myself in every area of my life, like school, work, friends, family, the gym, and so many other things, I just felt really guilty, and I was constantly disappointed in myself. Everything I loved became a chore, because the fear of letting down my siblings, friends, coworkers, the kids I coach, and just my community really weighed on me. Then, my first weekend here at college, my roommates floated the idea of going to the Letters event, and after some careful consideration, everyone decided that we're not waking up on a Sunday morning and walking 35 minutes across campus, which is important because we do that every Sunday now. But when Sunday morning came, I decided to get up and go anyway, and I'm forever grateful that I did. At the Letters event, I went up to the Survivor table because my brother had previously shared with me how much fun he had when he did it. I ended up getting invited to church and on Survivor weekend, and even though I didn't think I would enjoy either on a whim, I decided to go to both. Similarly, I also didn't grow up going to church, and I didn't have any idea what it meant to have faith, and it never occurred to me to look to God. So, despite all my instincts telling me not to, I got in a car with a girl I didn't actually know to go to church, and I think being a passenger in her car that day was the first time I became very aware of my faith in God, because despite her driving skills, we did make it safely to the destination. So, jokes aside though, I ended up connecting with my first service on such a deep level, I knew this was a path God was calling me to take. The following weekend was Survivor, and it was here that I met some of the most amazing people and now some of my closest friends. When the weekend came to a close, I reflected on my experience as a whole and how it felt to be surrounded by a community of people who love and are passionate about God. And it was then that I thought to myself, what do I have to lose? I started exploring my faith by delving into God's Word every day and attending church every week, and that's when my perspective started to change. I realized I was living spiritually dead and how my own pride was sinful. I realized that the belief that I had to be perfect and I could do everything on my own was hurting my relationship with Jesus. Throughout this process, I still dealt with various ups and downs, and I still chose to fall into habits of sin. I isolated myself, excessively worked out, and filled my schedule with other things in hopes of masking the inadequacy, anxiety, and fear I felt when I didn't meet or exceed the expectations put on me by myself and others. This led me to feel really unworthy of life, and I refused to trust anyone enough to open up to them about what I was going through or feeling. I ultimately chose to put my faith in my own plan and myself instead of the truth in God's plan. Despite what I was being told, I still struggled with how I could ever be enough for God when I didn't think I was enough for the people closest to me. In God's timing, as perfect as always, opened a door and someone shared the gospel story with me. It was then that I learned that we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, but because of His grace, we can find redemption in what Jesus did for us on the cross. Then, on September 19th, I decided to surrender my life to Jesus.
Woo, let's go.
Since then, I feel like a crushing weight has been lifted off my chest, and with a new breath of faith, I've started letting down my walls and getting authentic in my relationships with God and others. I found so much peace and even started sharing my faith in the gospel story with friends and family. I even got to see my younger sister and a few of my friends surrender their lives to Jesus. Now when I start feeling unworthy, I remember I don't have to be perfect and I'm not doing it alone. I give it to God and remember to put all my faith in Him and the fact that not only is His plan greater than any plan I could ever have for myself, I have faith, regardless of the current circumstances, He always has a plan for us to prosper.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah. That is so good.
Okay.
And honestly, I feel like literally every time, like, we share it again, or like, we've read it a few times this day, I just noticed something else, and I'm like, that's good. And it's like, yeah, just more to relate about.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed us sharing, and this is your sign to share your testimony with someone around you. And if you have no one to share it with, you know what, send it to us.
Send it to us, bro.
We would love to hear it. Yeah. We will be introducing some new people who want to share their testimonies soon. And so if you want to share yours with someone, and even just like find something to relate about, or you just need prayer for something, like, let us know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't talk about an outro.
Just be like, thanks for watching. So just to like a recap of what we just talked about, like, we think like testimonies are literally so powerful, and this is your story. Whatever you want to say in your testimony and what we said in ours, like, this is like our experience. And like, for if you're just like wanting to tell someone and share your experience with someone, like, you know what God did in your life. And that's like the beautiful part about it, is like no one can tell you you're wrong. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's like, this is how God changed our lives, and so let us know how God has changed your life. And
Yeah. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks so much for watching. Wait, what'd you say? I don't like what I just said.
I got it already.
Okay.
Wait, I think I did. What if I wasn't recording again?
I think I'll probably cry.
I think I will too.